What are the first home buyer incentives? It's one of the 100 questions first home buyers have that is really confusing. Let's give it a crack. So number one, we've got stamp duty concessions. What is stamp duty? Well, stamp duty is a tax, or it's a levy. It's a fee that's charged by the state government. Generally what happens is most states will have a bit of a carve out. So in Victoria, where I am, for example, any piece of land under $600,000, first home buyers don't have to pay anything in stamp duty. So that's a pretty sweet deal. That's knocking about on a $600,000 property, that's about 30 grand in stamp duty. So pretty awesome savings there. And those things are around or available in most states in the country at differing levels, and different states calculate their stamp duty differently as well. What's worth knowing, so price caps apply. You can find these calculators online. If you need any help, ask away and we can point you onto the right links. First home guarantee has had a lot of heat in the media lately because they allowed permanent residents to get on it when before it was just citizens, and they removed the income cap. So what does it mean? It means all you need to do is come up with 5%. Just remember, it's 5% out of the 100% of the property. There's still the cost involved. So you might have some stamp duty, you might have some other costs involved. So worth remembering that. But this is just what you need to know if you're a beginner. Okay, do I have 5%? All right, that's a good start. I can get access to this scheme. You got to remember there's property price caps. They also vary depending on what city you're in and if you're regional versus metro. Another thing a lot of people don't know about this scheme is you can actually buy with a mate. So if you've got 2.5% each, you can get in off that. Another one, single parent, is a variation of this. It's the same scheme pretty much, except the single parent only needs 2% deposit to get in. Co-buy schemes. A lot of people don't know what co-buy schemes are. And when they hear them, they don't really like the sound of them. And to be honest, that's probably because that's how I felt. I didn't like the sound of a co-buy scheme. What does that mean? So I'm just going to explain the Help to Buy scheme, which is the federal government scheme. And it's a co-buy scheme, so they buy a house with you. At the moment, they'll put in up to 30%. So if you want to buy a property for $800,000, for example, they'll pitch in 240. You need to have a 2% deposit, so that's 16 grand at least, plus some closing costs. The secret sauce in this scheme is in a place where I am, which is Frankston, which is out of Melbourne. $560,000 doesn't get you a house anymore. I mean, that's been gone for a number of years now. I've got these same clients who are priced out of the market that can access this scheme, and now the same properties that were worth 550 are now worth 650, 750, 800. They can now access these properties. So that's a real winner on the scheme. There is a downside. The government own up to 30% of your property, and as the price of that property goes up, they still own 30%. So if you want to buy them out later on, which you can, you have to buy them out at the increased amount. I hope you like my nice little example there. I've got you and Albo owning a home together, 70-30. That's the federal one. The states also have one. I believe WA and SA still have theirs, and Queensland's have boost to buy. You have to be aware of all of the terms and conditions and all of that sort of stuff. I'm thinking about creating a GPT just for first home buyers to go on. So if you're interested in that, let me know, because it's another one of those things that you have to do as a business owner, which is kind of further down the list. But that is co-buy schemes, pretty basic. The government, federal or state, owns a part of the property with you, helps you get into the market. Another one here is FOGs. So first home owner grant. People would have heard that name before. The FOG has morphed and changed into different things over the last 26 years. It came out in the year 2000. It was a federal government scheme then. Now it is a state government scheme. And mostly what it is for new houses. So either that's off the plan. So off the plan means something that is getting built and it hasn't been fully completed yet. So you're buying it off the plan. It's a new house, or you're buying a house and land package. Most first home buyers I know, or most of the deals, I shouldn't say deals, most of the loans that I do, house and land packages. So what is the benefit there? Well, generally what it is it's a one-off payment. So Victoria, it's 10,000. Queensland, it's 30 grand. So 30 grand is awesome at the moment. And that generally gets paid at base stage. So once you've started the build, the state government will pay that. Varies state by state. It's for new homes. So the benefit about getting into a new home, a little secret thing I haven't put in here, I put some greedy investors there with stink waft's coming off it. But I want to talk about why this is good. Actually, I'll talk about that in the mix and match bit, because that applies in the mix and match. Watch out for the investors. So there's two things to watch out for. I'll come to this at the end. Investors, I don't know if anyone's been aware, but there's been a whole furor on the news lately about all these tax changes that are happening. Property investors had a lot of handouts. I don't want to say handouts, but pretty much that's what they were or are. The Labor government are making it harder, but they're not making it harder for house and land packages, for new properties. Why? Because they want investors to build properties, because we've got a shortage in the housing market. There is a little problem there though. Traditionally, house and land, new properties is a first home buyer market. And what's happening is you've got these wealthy investors, the top 1% of wealthy investors, negative gear 25% of all the properties, or all the tax officers negative gearing from property. Usually they're stinking rich. We're talking incomes of over 350 grand a year here for an individual. So those guys are coming into a market where there's not much land already available. If you've been in Queensland, I think Perth is the same the last few years, there's been no land. It's not that people don't want it, but it's just that they can't get land close to where they work. So this is going to make it harder. So if you're considering doing that, I would seek to do it sooner rather than later, or at least explore that possibility. Right now, people are a bit scared. There's a bit of heat. They've still got to get the negative gearing thing is through. So this is pretty much legit. There is some capital gain stuff that needs to go through. So people are on the wait and see. They're on the back foot right now. It could be a good opportunity to pull the trigger now if that's what you're looking to do. Mix and match. What does that mean? Well, basically what it means is you can actually combine some of these things. So I've got 1 and 2 or 1 and 3. So you could get the stamp duty concession and put it with either co-buy schemes or the first home guarantee. So what does that mean? Let's say you buy an apartment in Melbourne for 600 grand. You don't have to pay any stamp duty on that. So you save the 30 grand off that. And if you access the first home guarantee, you only need 5% of the property, which is 30 grand. And then you've got costs at settlement, which isn't what this video is about. But usually for my clients, I say 3 or 4 grand as a general rule. You'll need to have left over just to cover settlement costs. So yeah, you can combine these things. Back to house and land, you can combine the house and land. So a lot of the time, this is a real hack, and this is why investors are trading on first home buyers, because first home buyers use this little hack in house and land. And basically what it is in Victoria, for example, if you buy a house for 800 grand, you're going to pay about 40 grand stamp duty. I think it's about 42 grand in stamp duty. So you've got to save up another 42 grand. So 5% is the 40 grand. And then for the stamp duty, you got to save up double, another 42 grand. If you're doing a house and land, let's say you pay 400 for the land, and then the build costs 400 grand. So it's 800 altogether. Whichever state you're in, the titles office calculate the stamp duty you pay based on what you've paid for the land. So you paid 400 grand for the land, that's under 600 grand, you pay 0 stamp duty. So when you're buying an existing, you pay 42. When you're buying house and land or off the plan, you're paying 0 for stamp duty. So pretty sweet deal there. And that's mix and matching everything. So 1, 2, and 4, you get access to the first home guarantee as well. So stamp duty concession, 5% first home guarantee, and you'll get that first home owner grant as well. So you'll get that 10 grand back when the slab goes down. So 10 grand in Victoria, 30 grand still at the moment. The Queensland government just announced they're extending that. So you're good for at least another 12 months on that 30 grand first homeowner grant. There it is, guys. About 10 minutes. Careful. I've done some little emojis there because that's what all you first home buyers like, isn't it? House, dollars, so the price goes up. So here's the thing. These first homeowner grants, kind of a double-edged sword for young people, because what happens is it brings more buyers into the market, right? Why does it bring more buyers into the market? Because this dude and dudette who are buying their house for 800 grand never would have been able to save that money. It would have taken them another 3 years for the average person to save up all that extra money. So you got all these buyers that are coming into the market, but you don't have any extra supply. Last time I heard, for the last 15, 20 years, we don't have enough supply, and that is certainly the case. So what's happening is basic economics. A lot more demand into constricted supply means property prices go up. And then on those new properties, we're chucking those stinking investors into it. This right here, coming into the end of 2026 and 2027, there is a lot of broader negativity about in the economy. But if you look at what's been happening to house prices, not much has been changing. There's been a lot of negativity in the last month. House prices are down 1-2%. Last time I looked at markets like Brisbane, Perth, you guys already know it if you live in those markets, they've skyrocketed. So the biggest property dip, if you look at the numbers, I think was 9%. We had a double dip in the GFC, 8.7 and 9. They didn't go down 17.7 altogether because there was a dip and then the property market went back up and then it went back down again. So property prices have doubled in a lot of places in the last 5 years. The one thing I will say about the market is just look out longer, just zoom out. Because a lot of people get focused on, oh, prices are down 1 or 2% right here or now. But if you just pull up a graph of property prices over the last 40 or 50 years, it'll tell you an unfortunate truth. And that is that house prices keep going up. And unfortunately, on average, people that wait have to get into debt later and into more debt because they can't save up quicker than what the property price is going up. So they're in more debt. So the average first home buyer is 37 now. The average loan is a 30-year loan. That puts you to 67 years old. So I don't want to push too hard on should you buy a house right now, but if you're watching this video, that's probably you. And there would be some reasons to consider as to pulling the trigger in these uncertain times. Anyway, if you've got any questions, you can find my details. You can ask them below. You can book a time to have a chat. If you found this helpful, let us know. Cheers.